All right, guys, we're here on station 6 now. Okay, station 6 is not very different than station 5, right? But our learning objective says that we should solve for the missing angle using inverse trigonometric ratios. Okay, so for the most part, right? And before I even start, I do want to emphasize, right? You don't have to do all 3 of these if you are confident in your ability. Okay, if you're struggling a little bit, then I would recommend doing all 3, right? But first of all, just make sure that if you already have it down, there's no need for you to be at this station. Okay, so try a different station if you've already got this down pat. Okay, but we're going to start these problems, right? And we can walk through this first one together, and then I'm going to make you, or not make you, but I'm going to hope that you walk through some of these examples on your own before you watch the whole video. Okay, so we're going to start with problem A, right? And this problem kind of follows the same exact pattern as station 5, right? We're going to do the same first 4 steps. Okay, after that, it changes a little bit, but not much. Okay, so our first step, we circle the reference angle, which in this case is A, right? Second step, we're going to label our sides. So opposite of A, right, is going to be 18. So I can put an O there. Our hypotenuse is going to be 24, right? And that means this is our adjacent side. So that was step 2, right? Labeling the triangle. Step 3, we got to figure out which trig ratio we're going to use. Okay. Well, we only have things here on the opposite side and here on the hypotenuse, right? So what sine function, or I just ruined it, right? But what trig function can we use for sides that are opposite in the hypotenuse? The only one we have is sine. Okay, that's step 3. Step 4 is just to set it up, right? So right next to the trig ratio goes our reference angle, which in this case is a variable, A, that's fine, right? And then we set up our trig ratio on the other side of the equal sign. So again, opposite up top, 18, hypotenuse on the bottom, 24. That's step 4. Okay, now step 5 is figuring out if we're solving for an angle or if we're solving for a side length. Well, it tells you in the directions, right, to solve for the missing angle. Okay, so that means we don't have to put our trig ratio over 1 like we did at station 5. Okay, instead, we're going to use inverses, right? So how do I get rid of this sign here, right? This sign that's right here. Well, all I do is use the inverse of sine. Sine to the negative first. Okay, and if I do that on one side, right, I've got to do it on this side as well. Okay, so we take this whole side and also do the inverse, right? So on this left side, these two things are going to cancel out. The only thing I'm left with is A over here, right? And then I've got the inverse sine of 18 over 24. Okay, and all we do now is simply put that in our calculator. Okay, so we need the inverse sine of 18 over 24. And again, make sure that your calculator is in degrees. Just like the last station, right? We're going to make sure that we round it. So it needs to be approximated. Okay, it needs to be rounded 2 decimal points. So for this one, it would be 48.59 degrees. Okay, so this is the point in the video where I want you to stop it, right? I want you to try the next 2 examples on your own, right? Once you're done, or if you get stuck, right, then hit play and watch the review. Okay, so go ahead and pause it now. All right, so we're going to walk through these problems now. So the first one I'm going to do is B, right? I'm going to walk through all 4 steps. Step 1, circle the reference angle, B, right? Step 2, label the triangle. So opposite of B is 15. So this is my opposite side, right? My longest side just happens to be the blank side. So I can put my hypotenuse there, making 12 the adjacent side. Okay? Step 3, we find which trig ratio we need to use. Since I only have stuff on the opposite and the adjacent side, there's only one function that works. That's tangent. In step 4, I'm going to set up the whole ratio now. So right next to the function goes our angle, in this case B, right? Equals, right, whatever tangent is, right, which we already said it. It's our opposite side length, 15, over our adjacent side length, 12. Okay? And for these 3 problems, we're looking for the angle, which means we instantly should do inverses. So in order to cancel out tangent, I use the inverse of tangent, right? And if I do that on one side, I have to do that over here as well. Okay? So So on the left side, these two things cancel out. I'm left with my variable, right? And then I have the inverse tangent of 15 over 12. Okay? So then we can just type that into our calculator, right? Couple things. Make sure that your calculator's in degrees. I already said that once, but just want to make sure we're clear. And when we do type that into the calculator and we round it 2 decimal places, we should get 51.34 degrees for part B. Okay, so there's that one. Now, let's take a look at this last one. Again, same 4 steps, right? Circle the reference angle, C, label the triangle. So we go, if I were to go opposite, there's nothing here, but I still label it my opposite side, right? My hypotenuse is 11 because it's the longest side. That means that 6 is my adjacent side. Step 3, right? We figure out what trig function we can use. So what uses adjacent and hypotenuse? Cosine does. I'm using the cosine function. Okay? And then we set it all up, right? So next to cosine goes my reference angle, or what I circled, which in this case was C. And then I set up my ratio, which is adjacent over hypotenuse. So 6 over 11. Again, since we're solving for an angle, we instantly use our inverses. So cosine to the negative first here, cosine to the negative first here, right? On the left side, these two things are going to cancel out. It leaves me with my variable. And on this side, I have cosine inverse of 6 over 11. We take that to our calculator. We make sure that's in degrees. Remember, we're typing in the inverse of cosine, not regular cosine, of 6 over 11. And when we round it, we should get C is approximately 56.94 degrees. All right, just like every other station, right? If you're still confused by the end of it, make sure that you raise your hand, ask questions. I don't want you to move on to the next station if you're not confident in your abilities here. So if you're all good, go ahead, pack it up, move on. If you're not, make sure you raise your hand, get my attention, or even ask the people around you for help too, if I'm helping somebody else at the moment. But that's all for this station, so make sure you head on to the next one.